So I'd previously done a video comparing Mortal Kombat to some of the movies it was going to face on its release schedule. So who was going to face against its release weekend, and then probably for the next month afterwards. Well, thanks to the pandemic, those movies have changed. So I decided to do another version of the Mortal Kombat movie versus other movie release, Tower. So I'll talk about the movies that Mortal Kombat has against it as far as competition, for its release date, and as far as the month. And this also includes some streaming movies. And I'll also kind of break down what the recent box office performance has been in other markets, and how it compares to Godzilla vs. Kong. But before we do, make sure you're subscribed to this channel because I will be doing a lot of Mortal Kombat content as far as the movie and the video game to celebrate the game's 2-year anniversary. So make sure you are subscribed, as also to enjoy my other content as well. So let's get to it. So just a recap of the previous Tower, some of the movies that Mortal Kombat would have been faced up against from its release schedule for at least the whole entire month would have been Morbius, The Boss Baby Family Business, 007 No Time to Die, A Quiet Place Part 2, and Black Widow. So now with the new Tower, we have a little bit more of limited release, wide release, and then we have some streaming movies that we didn't have before, because you have to keep in mind that this is a dual release, so for between HBO Max and in theaters simultaneously. So it needs competition from both ends, which could make it hard, but I think given some of the competition you'll see, I think Mortal Kombat may have it in the bag, but let's see. So starting off, let's talk about, I kind of grouped these together as far as some of the streaming movies. Right off the bat, Mortal Kombat releases in the US at least on April 23rd. So we have, from Netflix, we have Shadow and Bone and The Mitchells vs. the Machines, which was from Sony. And then we have Without Remorse on Amazon, which stars Michael B. Jordan. And then after that, we have the horror movie Separation, which is going to be a limited release movie. We also have Wrath of Man, which is going to be a nationwide release starring Jason Statham. We have Spiral from the Book of Saw, which is with Chris Rock in it. We then have Army of the Dead from Zack Snyder, which is going to be on Netflix. Then Cruella, which comes out on May 28th, and then A Quiet Place 2 on May 28th. So, given that competition, I would say from its opening weekend, and at least I would say up until May 14th when Spiral comes out, I really don't think that Mortal Kombat's going to have a whole lot of competition. And I'm sad to say that even with the new Saw movie, I don't think that Mortal Kombat will still be like knocked out of the box office. I mean, thanks to the pandemic, the box office is kind of slow to react. I mean, there are movies that, have big drops week over week, but I think that Mortal Kombat will hold its own even with, 2 or 3 weeks under its belt. So I think the part where it will start, fizzing out completely will be all the way up after it's been a whole month that it's been out in the US, which is all the way up until Cruella and A Quiet Place 2. I think by then, Mortal Kombat will have had its run, but I think that Mortal Kombat will stay. I think it will stay in the top 3, if not the top 2, all the way up until Cruella. I don't think that, the only movies I see on here that could possibly kick it out would be Spiral and Army of the Dead, up until we get to Cruella and A Quiet Place 2. You have to keep in mind that Cruella is a more family film, and it will basically appeal to 2 different audiences. I myself am a 101 Dalmatians fan of the original live-action movies that came out in the 90s and 2000s, so I think that compared to, being good for kids to go watch, or appealing to kids to go watch with Disney, that will definitely make it be a movie that will probably earn a lot at the box office. Now, Spiral is strictly a horror movie for adults, and while it is doing nationwide, there is no simultaneous streaming option for it, so I don't know that it's going to do that well, because a lot of people, while they may like horror, sometimes given the pandemic, it's a horror in itself, so they may not go out to actually see it. But I think Mortal Kombat will do well up until, I believe, Cruella. So how is Mortal Kombat doing so far in the box office of the markets it has released in, and how is it doing compared to Godzilla vs. Kong? So as far as Godzilla vs. Kong is concerned, as of this recording, the movie has made $70 million domestic, and I recently just read that it passed $350 million for its global box office take, which is pretty good for a pandemic movie. Now, Mortal Kombat has been released in 9 markets so far, including as of this weekend with Australia and Germany. And without Australia and Germany's numbers being captured, it has made almost $11 million, with $7 million of that coming from Russia alone. So Russians really like Mortal Kombat. Now, if you compare it from what it's released so far and the amount of markets it has and the amount of time it has, it's underperforming compared to Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, I feel like it will do better domestically than Godzilla vs. Kong. I think that Mortal Kombat has more appeal, especially with the video game aspect. And I don't know, I've heard this in a lot of other reviews for Godzilla vs. Kong and the past Godzilla and King Kong movies, that the US is not really a big kaiju, market fan base. I think they are. I enjoyed the movie. I went and saw it, so I gave my money to the movie. But I think compared to like the other markets, especially Asian markets, we're not as whatever about it as they are, because I think the majority of the movie came from like China. So that tells you that. Now, saying that, I do think that Mortal Kombat, once it is released in China, Japan, and some of the other Asian markets, I know it already released in South Korea, but maybe some other markets like that, I think that it will perform very well. And I think if it performs well at least in the US, I think if Mortal Kombat at least does really well domestically and still beats Godzilla vs. Kong, it'll still be a success. It'll still be a headline, because that's going to tell Warner Brothers that Mortal Kombat is a franchise that at least American moviegoers want to go see, and then hopefully get us a sequel. So make sure you go see it, guys. Make sure you watch it in theaters. And if you can't watch it in theaters, make sure you watch it on HBO Max, because they're going to keep track of that. And if you're not subscribed to HBO Max, make sure you do that so we can get us a sequel to the movie, because they already gave up on Zack Snyder, which I don't know why. The Snyder Cut was awesome, and I don't think they're getting an Ayer cut for Suicide Squad. So come on, Mortal Kombat fans, let's do this. One last thing I want to talk about, I want to talk about some early reviews for the movie. So I want y'all to take these with a grain of salt, because there's a lot of ratings on here, and I know that there's been markets already released, but I think that some of these are just, once we get the full scope, once the movie's released, I think it will kind of even some of these out, and I think it will boost the numbers. But so far, for Mortal Kombat with Rotten Tomatoes, as of this recording, we have 56% rotten. I think 60% is what you need to be fresh, so we're almost there, but that's only out of 9 reviews. So you can tell that they were mixed. I think that I already know some people that I follow on YouTube that are probably going to give it good reviews, which will boost it up. And I know that some of the critics are probably going to give it, if not good, probably in the middle, which will still raise it. It's not going to dip it down too low, but it'll raise it. So if I had to pick a spot where I think Rotten Tomatoes for it'll be at, I'm hoping for 70. You want 70% for these movie reviews to be good. 70% fresh is what I'm hoping for. IMDb gave it 7.1 out of 10, and that's with the most reviews so far, which is 3,925. And I don't know if a lot of those are even like people that have actually seen the movie. So it's probably just people giving their thoughts beforehand. And finally, I want to mention Letterboxd, which is 2.9 out of 5 with 823 ratings. Now, you might think that that's low, but 2.5 out of 5 is 50%. So it's a little bit over 50%. So it's about matching the Rotten Tomatoes percentage. And there again, I said the same thing. I think that there are a lot of people that saw the movie from other markets and they're giving their ratings. But I think once we get the US market and the other bigger markets in there as well to kind of help even it out, I think it will give it a boost. And like I said, I'm hoping for, the more, maybe 3.5 out of 5. That would be a better score. That would give us over that 70%. And I would say, we're already kind of at that with IMDb, but it'd be nice to see it maybe go up a little bit higher than that. So what do you think about the movie Tower Part 2? Which ones do you think will give Mortal Kombat some competition? Do you agree that I think that Spiral may not give it that much, but it's really up into Cruella and A Quiet Place 2? What do you think about the box office performance so far? Do you think that Mortal Kombat will do well domestically in the US? And do you think that it could beat Godzilla vs. Kong? Let me know in the comments below. And that's it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed, hit that like button. For more videos like this one and all my Mortal Kombat content, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And I'll see you guys next time on The Mashup.